So what we're doing today is we're gonna do an upper body day, but we're gonna work your contralateral imbalances. We're gonna do what's called an overhead press. That overhead press is gonna work what's called your anterior delt. We're then gonna follow that with the same contralateral staggered stance or split squat stance, but we're gonna do a lateral raise with it. And what that's gonna do is gonna work your lateral head with your posterior delt as a secondary mover. And as a third exercise, to make sure as we do our pressing, we don't wanna continue to be interiorly rotated. So we're gonna do an externally rotated exercise, which is gonna target the posterior delts primarily. So by the time you actually come back to your original overhead press, now from a three-dimensional standpoint, everything is activated and everything now is taxed, meaning it's a little bit more fatigued. So when you go back to this muscle, you're not gonna need as much heavy weight load, and that's gonna allow your body's cognitive functioning to focus on your biomechanic when you have the contralateral imbalance that we're trying to fix. Because when you're stabilizing with your core and learning this, when you have imbalances, the more stress on the body, the more it's gonna be distracted. So this allows us to be in a better execution, and it allows us to have more of an aesthetic look without injuring or going back into what we've already fixed.
It's going down. It's going down, 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 down. It's going down, down, down.
We pretty much got everything that was around the shoulder complex to be defrosted and kind of released. At the same exact time, we were able to fire each one of these deltoid heads, the anterior head, lateral, and posterior, so we could get them all fired separately as a unit. Now we're gonna sit back into our incline bench. You use a little bit of your pecs when you do anterior presses, but now we're gonna turn these on, and we wanna make sure to follow the same exact protocol where we're gonna do unilateral before bilateral. Because if you go to do a bilateral movement with both arms, your left is primarily gonna take over because of how internally rotated this is due to your contralateral imbalances, okay? So we wanna be able to get this to do less work, we're gonna get this one to do more. So we're actually gonna do 15 reps on this to start off. We're only gonna do 8 to 10 on here, okay? Eventually, once we get our strength even, we're gonna go down to 8 reps, and fire them together, okay? When people and you have muscular imbalances, specifically your contralateral imbalance, there's a lot of things that we need to address at the beginning of our program, right? And that's why we did the whole entire 3D analysis of what we started with, and the whole entire theme that we entered into afterwards when we started doing unilateral and started doing all the complexities as supersets, like all the push-ups with a physio ball. Right. All these revolve around one central theme, core. Specifically your TVA, your transversal abdomen, where we're gonna be taxing this at the same exact time as taxing your contralateral imbalance where this side's not working. That way, the whole entire body can come as a whole unit and be used as a whole unit. Right. Biggest thing about this is, as we continue that theme, that stress is gonna get higher within that theme, meaning your core is gonna be continuously taxed, causing more stress to the nervous system. The one thing I want you to understand when you're doing anything with core involved, speed is not your friend. Tempo should be slow so you can be controlled throughout it. And make sure not to forget the certain loading patterns we talked about, like not dropping straight down to get to those traps like the nervous system wants to, and dropping forward like a torpedo. That way we can actually engage our lats, which are helping us absorb all the weight load from our body on top of our core, holding up the whole entire structure as one. So as we go throughout this whole entire thing, remember the one thing. consistency of your diaphragmatic breathing is going to keep this core, your transversal abdomen, engaged so the whole entire body can be producing more power. At the end, we're gonna end with power and explosive exercises now that everything's taxed out strength-wise, power-wise, and stability-wise. So when we go into our sled pushes, that's gonna be another upper and lower connection where we're gonna be pressing through and pushing, okay? That being said, you're gonna feel a lot of your chest because again, that's the central nervous system that we're trying to do as a consistent theme along with the core. Does that make sense? So by the time we're done, that whole entire energy system is gonna be depleted, okay? So not only have we released what's tight, we've reactivated what's been turned off, we realigned it in the right structure, the right alignment, and we re-strengthened it by being able to engage each one of these lifts after each other, where our body can engage everything as a whole separately. And then once we put it all together, the central theme is you're gonna have everything in your upper torso completely fatigued out for your push day. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so by the time we're done, you're gonna have a more defined chest. You're gonna have a more 3D appearance at the top. That way you have an illusion that you look wider at the top. As we put the stress to the core, it's gonna taper you in at the bottom, right? Because we want that funnel of a look. And on top of it, not only is it aesthetically gonna get you that, but functionality-wise, you're gonna be able to handle whatever environment, whatever scenario happens in your life, and you're gonna be able to perform in every type of sport-specific or any type of style of training you want. Because once you've gotten to this point, there's nothing that you can't do with the planes of motion that we build our foundation on, the loading patterns we increased during phase 2, and now the complexities that we're adding during phase 3 that makes it sport specific. So everything we started around 9 weeks ago led us up until this point. And now what we can do is we can now develop our body to the aesthetic and functionality to create longevity and sustainability, because that's all what functional aesthetics stands for. When it comes down to it, we revive you from the inside out.
My boy, appreciate that.
I don't think they running at my pace. Jordan 1s, gotta keep them laced. I said I'ma do it, I'ma get it anyways. All I do is work, I got this money on my brain. I don't like to talk, I just got way too much to say. They been trying to get me, I'ma get them out of the way. I said I'ma do it, I'ma go and get it back. We got in a whip, then I went and hit the dash. I've been thanking God for this life that I done had. I don't need opinions, dog, I only need a facts. What's real, dog? Sitting still, dog. They in they feels, dog. I got these bills, dog. Need a meal, dog. If they wantin' less, it's no deal,